Disclaimer: everything that is discussed, posted is strictly for educational and historical purposes only. It does not promote nor condone illegal activities. Joe Corvino, legendary Dogman. This article was written not to be a benefit. I dedicate it to you, young people who are taking the first steps. Let me tell you about the pioneer of our sport. But before we begin the story, saying that no one could tell you about Joe Corvino as I can do. And I think I have the right to express my admiration for this man as the best pit sport. Joe worked a lot, and all that he knew how, trained himself, is to be commended, but this man 20 years ahead of its time. He never worked in favor of someone, all while being able to search for improvements in everything, whether it podkovivania horses or manufacture of the tracks or other important areas of his life. Joe was a smith by profession and had a forge in the heart of Chicago. He was one of many such in those years in Chicago, but as a blacksmith Joe had no equal in the profession. I lived 2 blocks from this place. At the age of 9 years, I got his first pit bull dog, because my uncle was a good friend of Joe. Then I first got acquainted with Joe. I do not know whether he saw in me something then, or not, but since the day we have not separated until his death. As soon as school ended, I went to gain the mind of his smithy. My heart was there, in the movement, which took place in the legendary smithy. I could open the door and making a few steps to see our sports celebrities such as Bert Klaus, Mike Ferris, Bill Cotton, Pete Sparks, Leo Kinrad, Jack and Vic Kelly and many others. Each of them, coming to Chicago is my duty to visit the old days. Joe, his desk was just overwhelmed letters, because he wrote and professionals and novices. Sooty walls decorated with photos of the true wizards. A.P.B.T. I will never forget that invaluable experience which takes over from Joe. He would bring me everywhere with them. We have always appeared earlier than others, and can see when visiting others. Sonny could tell Joe, remember the first lesson. Dogmen must speak the truth, even when they speak with dogmen that lie, or do not make the paper a dog, Sonny, but the dog made of paper. He often repeated to me, do not be surprised when they leave, surprised when they left. One day, telling me this, he underscored and pronounced, you know what I am talking about, or is it very difficult for you? Once I asked him what style he prefers. Joe said, dogs should be game. I asked why. Because they are always at the height of, he said. I spent much time with him in the smithy, and for me every minute was precious. Joe breeds for gameness, because in those days the sport was based on that. I think it would be terribly troubled, bringing him to see some of the modern dogs. Many dogmen had a business relationship with him. Joe was very happy. It could take a dog from Joe, paying $5, and next week, at another $3. He had a little book in which he recorded all property being made. One thing I do not ever forget, Joe once told me, Sonny, I want you to trust in my breed, and just as I do so, be sure I get the dogs and the other, and they, in turn, even from someone. But breeding should be based so that dogs do not fall off from its primary. No one can claim a monopoly of good dogs, now I know that's for sure. He told me this when I was wearing pants with threadbare knees and had no right to vote. Well, remember that neither has happened, victory or defeat. The man knew how to keep themselves in the hands of friends and with his head. Perhaps, therefore, the dog, such as those now found only rarely. But everyone can criticize, but people are beginning to have loaded on your throat, is to be commended, but Joe never demanded much from those around him. Dogman, however, his dog, and his tracks are still kept intact in all cases and did not disappear from the game so far. How many today would say that the blood of their dogs to work and 25 years? The great representatives of the breed today has little recall of dogs that were the best in the past, but Corvino dogs have their generation. I would also like to say that the important thing about dogs Corvino, a fact that Joe always have followed their maturing, and if you saw a good display, was patient, waiting for when they reached the peak of ripeness. And usually, it was not earlier than the dog performed 3 years or more. It is a lot of value attached to training and always told me, never dares, only to have something to take its time. I got the knowledge from Joe than anybody else in his life, because everything he lived and continues to think like me. 2 dogs are at the root of the oldest dog blood Corvino, so Fly and Panama, Cunningham's Fly and Corvino's Gimp. Fly Gimp's mother and his brother Corvino's Shorty. Many modern dogs are a family tree from Tudor's Daibo, while the origin of the very old dogs are Daibo Corvino. Joe was 73 years old when he died, but kept the old dog to death. I still keep all of his old letters and photographs. One day I will make of all this book. I hope you have learned something useful by this article and you tell your friends about this exactly, but do not push them to go another way. And, it is better to let all of this be criticized than ignored. Let the judge be time, because there are no dissimilar people, and there are no dissimilar views. Sunny Sykes. Well, there you have it, folks, the story of the legendary Dogman Joe Corvino.